You can all be proud of the third and fifth graders who went to Passport Kids. Such good kids. And I learned something new from Amy that I'm going to use with my grandsons on Mimi Camp next year. I had Mimi Camp 5 days with my 5 out of 6 grandsons right after Passport Kids, and these kids were so much better. So before the trip, Amy put out one of those extra large drawing papers. I'm not sure what you call them, the kind that stick on the wall. And the kids all sat down together and created their own covenant of behavior. Things like we're not going to go in each other's rooms and take their things, or we're going to listen, or we're going to walk in a straight line when we need to. Things like it was crazy, but it was the kids themselves who detailed this, and they were animated and thorough. It was a long list, and they stuck by it. Each night, there was a devotional after the evening's event. We all sat on the floor at the end of the hallway and discussed the day. What happened? How did they feel? And we discussed the Bible story. During Wally's devotional time, he gave 4 little figurines of Jesus to each kid. Can you see this little thing? They love these things, and challenged them to give them away to anyone they saw doing good for someone else. It took courage to do this. It was awkward and uncomfortable, but they were encouraged to be brave. The theme of Passport, as you can tell, is vamos, let's go. But how do we discern where to go, what to do, what is required of us? Esther, who was my topic for my night of devotion, Esther and her bravery for such a time as this was the Bible story. And I think looking at Esther gives us some clues. Many of you will remember the story of Esther, but maybe not. It's an entire book in the Old Testament that is not preached often, but celebrated yearly in March as Purim by the Jewish people. And the book of Esther cannot be proven to be historically factual, but it does, however, portray the true history of that time. It was the same century when Socrates was born in 470 BC. Confucius was born in the East. It was the golden age of Greece under Pericles. And this was when Athens was at the height of its cultural and intellectual influence. The Olympic Games existed, and Greece had a political system that became the basis of our democracy. And we know a lot about this time from the Greek historian Herodotus, who wrote History of the Persian Wars 25 years after the reign of Xerxes. And it was during this time when Cyrus, the king of Persia, allowed the Jewish people to return to Judah and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. And in fact, Cyrus let a lot of the people from other countries return to their homeland. And historians write that while many Jews did go home to Judah, many stayed back in their comfortable lives in Persia, like Esther. So Esther's story is set in Susa, modern Iran, in the court of Ahasuerus, whose Greek name is Xerxes. While God is never mentioned in the whole book, it is a story about God's covenant with us, a story about bravery, deliverance, and being used by God for God's purposes. Let me tell you this story about Esther, or refresh your memory. Esther was raised by her uncle Mordecai after her parents died. Now, Xerxes ruled over 127 provinces, had a wife, Queen Vashti, and a right hand man, Haman, who helped him rule. And when Queen Vashti refused an order to appear before the king, Xerxes was angry and put out a decree to find the most beautiful woman in each of his provinces. And Esther was chosen from her province, but kept secret that she was Jewish. Esther pleased the king, and she became his favorite. You can read into that. Now Haman made a decree for all the people to bow down to him, and Mordecai, the uncle, who hung around the walls of the city, keeping an eye on his niece Esther, would not bow. And through some other events, it became known that Mordecai was Jewish. So Haman convinced the king to kill all the Jewish people in all the provinces as revenge, as punishment. But Mordecai had previously saved the king from being killed, and the king stepped in and saved Mordecai from this fate. But the decree still held. Mordecai said to Esther, "It's up to you to save your people. By God's providence, you have been placed there for such a time as this." Now, Esther did not want to do this. If you went before the king without being summoned, you could be killed. But Esther and the Jewish people in the kingdom fasted for 3 days, and she went before the king. And the king welcomed her, holding out the gold scepter. And Esther said she wanted to prepare a big banquet for him. Always good to set the stage ahead of time, create good conditions for the future. And the king was so pleased, he granted her petition. Everyone was saved except Haman. So Esther shows us a willingness to step out. If we're to vamos, let's go, there's a few things to consider. What providence, the protective care of God, places us in situations we find ourselves in? You know, Colleen Burrows, who was with her husband David, created Passport 37 years ago. And she asked me, "What are you doing here?" And I replied, "Well, Amy asked me." And I thought it would be fun to be with Amy and the kids and Wally. And it was. And after all, I mean, I was a missions pastor and missions coordinator for many years, so this felt comfortable. Perhaps you're on the ball field with your kids playing or at work or having fun with friends. Perhaps your suffering in the past enables you to tune into someone else's suffering. God's providence places you for such a time as this, and it could be anywhere. Number 2, both Mordecai and Esther played a part in the deliverance of the Jews. And many times we can help each other. We can team up, do it together, making a difference in someone's life. 3, if we set our minds on God each day, asking for an opportunity, God will use us every time. Praying, lead me today, Lord. We all have busy days, chaotic times. Are we rushing through? Are we mindful of God's nudges? Can we hear that inner whisper that encourages us to act? And what about bravery? Esther could have been killed entering into the king's inner court without being summoned. Our passport campers, they were brave, handing out someone a little Jesus and telling them, "I saw you stop and hold the door for everyone. And I saw you help another kid in Bible study." It was uncomfortable and scary to do, but they were so brave. Sometimes we just need to say a quick prayer and just do it. Often we don't know how it will play out. We don't know what God is up to, the significance of it all. But if we go, the joy of being used by God makes a difference in their lives and in ours. In everything under the sun, we are assured in Matthew 28:20, "And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." For sure, God is with you always.